Incredicoaster is the signature coaster at Disney California Adventure, and this is such a weird coaster to see at a Disney park. Rather than being a highly themed experience, this instead is a massive double out and back coaster. But is it ultimately a good ride? I'll discuss that in this review. Disney California Adventure opened back in 2001 to less than stellar reviews. Early critics cited poor theming and a lack of Disney characters. Both these were seen in the park's headlining attraction, California Screamin. This was the largest of the park's two coasters. It was placed in the Paradise Pier section of the park. This section was designed to resemble the Boardwalk parks of old, so California Screamin was specifically designed to look like a classic wooden roller coaster, and it definitely looked like one with the white structure and abundance of supports. Then the ride also threw in a vertical loop, cleverly designed to look like Mickey Mouse. But that was the extent of the ride's original theming, just a resemblance. The only other aesthetic elements were blue tunnels placed in the largest drops. This was to muffle screams and reduce noise complaints from neighbors because this ride was right up against a road, several hotels, and the Anaheim Convention Center. In early 2018, California Screamin closed and reopened later that summer as Incredicoaster. This was part of a transformation of Paradise Pier into Pixar Pier. This was part of an initiative to add more characters into the park. What changed from an aesthetic perspective with Incredicoaster? The ride was given an all-new entry archway and logo featuring the Incredibles. Then the tunnels were repainted red on the outside and given some theming elements on the inside. The initial launch was given a splash effect to simulate Dash running alongside you. Then the ride also got some character statues at the start and end, and the former Mickey Mouse on the loop was turned into a Pixar ball. But the ride's visual impact is still mostly about the elements, not the theming. This is a colossal coaster. It stands 108 feet or 33 meters tall. This opened as the tallest Disney coaster at the time, a distinction that has since been claimed by Animal Kingdom's Expedition Everest. But it is still the chain's longest coaster. In fact, it is the 5th longest coaster in the United States. This ride features over 6,000 feet or 1,850 meters of track. And it looks fantastic on the skyline. The ride sits on the back edge of the park. It is so picturesque looking out over the water at this ride. That is especially true at night when the structure is illuminated with a series of lights. And you almost always see multiple trains cycling the course simultaneously. This is because the ride routinely runs 4 to 5 trains with lightning-fast operations. The only time that doesn't happen is when the coaster is closed. This coaster is entirely outdoors, so it will close for lightning or heavy rain. It is also prone to mechanical breakdowns. This is a complex coaster with a launch, booster lift, and multiple block sections. The coaster commonly has a couple of brief stoppages daily, but it has been plagued with more downtime than usual as of late, both in terms of quantity and duration. This may be why it's scheduled for a multi-week refurbishment early next month. Incredicoaster is a monstrous capacity. It is one of the highest of any coasters across the world. Along with the speedy operations and abundance of trains, each train holds 24 passengers. As a result, this ride usually has a reasonable wait. For much of the day, it usually isn't more than a half hour. The line can spike to the hour mark briefly during the day. If you see that extended queue line use, I recommend coming back later in the day. This tends to happen after the ride reopens from repeated bouts of downtime, as people have redemption lightning lanes to use up. And at least 2/3 of the ride's capacity is allocated for lightning lanes. There are several ways to avoid long waits altogether. First, you can ride this early in the day. Since it's located in the back of the park, Incredicoaster doesn't usually have too much of a wait during the first 2 hours. Second, you can ride this at night. There usually isn't much of a wait during that last hour. I think this coaster is cool at night with all the lighting effects, but you may want to avoid riding this during World of Color performances. This ride is kept in total darkness during the show. Third, you can purchase a lightning lane. This is the park's paid skip the line system. You book a 1-hour time slot, and when your time is called, you shouldn't have to wait more than 10 to 15 minutes. You can book each ride at the resort once per day, and I think this upcharge is well worth it. Fourth, you can use the single rider line. Whenever an odd-numbered party comes through the standby line, they will fill the empty seats with someone from this queue line. Usually, the wait is much shorter than standby, but not always. If you see the single rider line extending onto the boardwalk, you may have to wait upwards of a half hour. The setup of this is pretty weird though, because Incredicoaster is a dual load platform. You wait alongside the outer edge of the load platform. Then you take an elevator up and another elevator down. This brings you into the middle. There, a grouper will assign you a row on either side of the station. It is a bit cramped here, but the cast members will get you on the ride quickly and efficiently. The main queue consists of a series of tight switchbacks. You pass some signs with profiles on different heroes, but that's it. Honestly, it's reminiscent of the theming Six Flags uses on their superhero-themed coasters. After the merge point, guests take some stairs to the load platform. Here, you get the premise for the attraction. The city is renaming an old roller coaster after The Incredibles. Edna is being asked to watch Jack Jack during the ceremony, but he ultimately escapes. The Incredibles then need to work together to catch the superpowered baby. It is a loose story, but Disney was admittedly limited with what they could do with a coaster like this. The ride is accompanied by onboard audio that helps progress the story. This is done with small bits of narration here and there, but a majority of the audio consists of energetic music. Although, I did prefer the old California Screamin soundtrack better. I thought that score was livelier and better suited for a thrill coaster like this, but it did lack the narrative elements. At the end of the queue, riders are assigned a row, but if you ask nicely, cast members are happy to accommodate seating requests. I highly recommend the front or back car. Those seats offer some airtime. You don't get nearly as many negative Gs towards the middle of the train. Riders are restrained by just an over-the-shoulder harness. These are hard and very close to your ears. Fortunately, the ride is mostly smooth, but it's still possible to tap your head in the directional changes. I would recommend leaning forwards during these directional changes to avoid any discomfort. It is also worth noting, as with most Disney coasters, everything must ride with you, bags included. Bags sit on the floor, and smaller items like cell phones can go in these pouches in front of you. I know they may not seem secure in a ride of this scale, but your belongings are safe here. Disney would not do it otherwise. Once dispatched, the audio starts up and you briefly pass a display with an Edna statue. You then see Jack Jack teleport away from her. You then come to a grinding halt on the launch track. You then usually pause briefly, but you may wait several seconds depending on the vehicle spacing ahead of you. Dash then excitedly counts down, and then you take off. This is a linear induction motor or LIM launch. It takes longer to accelerate you to the top speed than newer launch mechanisms, as it takes 4 seconds to reach your top speed of 55 miles per hour or 89 kilometers per hour. But it still has a solid initial kick. I also love the visuals of the launch. It not only takes place above the water, but you have those aforementioned splash effects beside you to simulate Dash running. This is also paired with some sound effects of him running, which honestly sound like bullets grazing over the water, which adds a sense of urgency. You then have a giant camelback. The crest is contained within the first of 3 tunnels. There, you will see Jack Jack firing laser beams from his eyes. I like how the characters in this ride are all physical statues rather than video screens, and the lasers are illuminated by LED strips, and they are particularly vibrant at night. Then the element itself has the best airtime on the ride. Those up front get a nice pop of airtime at the apex. Those in back get okay floater airtime on the descent. You then twist upwards. Remember to keep your head forwards here, or else you could lightly hit the restraint. You then pass through the first of several mid-course brake runs, but this one, like most of them, usually will not slow you down. You then have a wide turnaround. This originally circled around the old Maliboomer drop tower, but it now passes around the inside-out emotional whirlwind. The turn starts off high and dull, but the end of it swoops downwards. This isn't forceful, but it does rebuild speed. Then there's a rapid twist left at the bottom. You have great speed during this maneuver. You then hit the tallest hill on the ride, and the train does not have enough momentum to make it up on its own, so there are these LIM boosters to slowly push you to the top. It feels more like a traditional chain lift than a launch because of the gradual speed. This hill is also in a tunnel. At the start, you will see Elastigirl stretching towards Jack Jack, but he's glowing green to signify that he's phasing away from her. At the top, you will see Mr. Incredible trying to lure Jack Jack over with a cookie, but to no avail, and riders will encounter the scent of chocolate chip cookies here, which is a nice touch if you enjoy sweets. And Disney took full advantage of this, not by having a gift shop at the exit, no, instead, they have a stand selling chocolate chip cookies. You then have the largest drop of the ride. It is not overly steep, so it only offers some weak floater airtime in the back car, but it builds up plenty of speed. You then have another big turnaround. The entry into it is another moment where you can get a pinch of headbanging if you're not careful. Then the turn itself doesn't really do anything from a force perspective. You then have a drop downwards. Despite the speed, you don't get any airtime here. You then navigate the ride's lone inversion, a vertical loop. This is an intense inversion. It has great positive Gs throughout. However, the train noticeably jackhammers throughout. It doesn't cause any headbanging, but it can be uncomfortable while being subjected to those high G-forces. I would love to see this section get replacement track in the future to smooth it out, especially because this probably is the first inversion for a lot of kids. You then climb upwards into another mid-course brake run. You burn off too much speed here to get any negative Gs in the ascent. Then you cruise into another tunnel, and this is the most visually pleasing of all of them on the ride. Jack Jack bursts into flames, so the start of it is glowing red. Violet then uses her force field abilities to protect everyone, changing it to a bluish purple hue. This is another effect that pops more at night. And as a bonus, the drop gives some weak floater airtime in the back car. Then you have another turnaround that wraps around the first one. It's another one that is lacking any real forces though. Then you twist into another mid-course brake run, and you again will not typically slow down here. You then dip downwards, getting some weak floater airtime in that back car. Everyone will get weak floater airtime in the following two bunny hills though. I need to talk about the visuals though during this. The bunny hills very visibly take place above the area's buildings. It looks cool off-ride, but on-ride it does not look the best, and Disney does not try to hide that you're on top of buildings. You see the plain roofs and HVAC equipment. At this point, you are told that Jack Jack is multiplying. So, there are a series of poles on the side with Jack Jack statues on them. These are relatively small, so they can be pretty easy to miss if you aren't looking for them. I really wish Disney did something else here to better emphasize the visual. You then climb upwards into the final mid-course brake run. Without slowing down once again, you navigate a helix contained within the second turnaround. While it has a good sense of speed because you're enveloped in the supports, it's another maneuver lacking any positive Gs or laterals. You again want to watch your head in the directional changes though. You then hit the final brakes. The initial deceleration is smooth, but you have these sudden jolts on the way back to the station, so you want to stay on your toes for these. Off to the left, you can see that Edna has successfully caught a supersized Jack Jack using a cookie no less. You then return to the station, likely on a different side of which you departed, thanks to a switch track. This ends the very long coaster, as you have over 1 mile of track. Length certainly is not an issue with this ride. But what about pacing? This is an area where Incredicoaster is not perfect. While the drops and inversion are good, the turns do not do much at all. They feel like complete filler. I get that Disney didn't want to go uber extreme with this ride, but I really wish they add some theming elements during the rebrand to spice these moments up. Instead, the visuals were placed during the parts that were always fun anyway. So, what would I rate Incredicoaster? I would give this ride a 7 out of 10. This is a weird ride to rank. By Disney standards, this ride is weaker on the visuals, but I think you have to compare this to a traditional thrill coaster. When you compare Incredicoaster to one of those, you do have more theming than usual between the effects in the tunnels and the onboard audio. Then the experience definitely stands out compared to the other coasters at the resort by being an element-driven attraction. The hills offer some airtime if you're on the ends of the train. Then the vertical loop is very forceful. I just wish the turns on the ends of the attraction were better, because it does create some dead space in between the good parts. While this ride is a weird fit for a Disney park, it is worth checking out. It offers a unique experience at the resort, and it's an iconic coaster that delivers a solid ride. Just don't expect the visual spectacle of the chain's other coasters. And I do think the Incredibles retheme was ultimately a net positive for this ride. While I do miss the old soundtrack, the story elements do help the ride fit into the park better, and it gives you a few extra things to see along the way. So those are my thoughts on Incredicoaster at Disney California Adventure. What are your thoughts on this ride? Are you a fan? Or do you think it's a weird fit for a Disney park? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.